Welcome to the show, guys. Today we are talking way too super ridiculously early top 5 running backs for 2023. Now, this list is not going to look like how you think it's going to look, right? A lot of people already talking about Austin Ekeler being the first overall pick for 2023. And I warn you, and I'm telling you right now, Austin Ekeler will not finish as the number 1 running back again for 2023. But everybody will tell you to draft him as the top running back going into this season. And I'm going to debunk all that right here, right now. We're going to talk all about that. I'm going to give you guys how a realistic top 5 is going to be this year. Now, that being said, the guy I've got at number 1, will not needed to be drafted first overall, right? You can wait. You can get him for value. Example, last year, everybody said Saquon Barkley is outside the top 10. Everybody had Saquon outside the top 10. So I believed in Saquon. He finished top 5 this year, right? I wasn't necessarily going to draft him first overall because I knew I can get Henry and swing back around and get Saquon. So understand, guys, even though I rank players higher than the ADP, make sure you get them at that value. Does that make sense to you guys? Very, very easy to win. That's why 16 rounds is a game changer, and that's coming out May. So I'll drop a link here below. Again, you order this first week in May, okay? 16 rounds. Don't order it now because I got to upload it. But 60-round draft solution is the game changer. That's going to help you guys win your league because I don't do consensus cookie cutter rankings, guys. That's not how I work, all right? So we're going to talk in top 5 running backs here. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys do click the subscribe button. I'm going to do a deep dive here. And we're going to work through this. Again, this is very early, okay? My thought is going to change because we got to see how the NFL draft's going to happen. We're going to see how the season ends, right? A couple of these guys in the playoffs right now, God forbid they have an injury. Things change, right? So I don't solidify necessarily my rankings and the way I look at things till, I would say at least till after the draft, a week or two after the draft. That's when I release 16 rounds, all right? So let's talk about this, guys. I'm going to work my way from 5 all the way to 1. Now, let's talk about Austin Ekeler, right? Because I got him out of here in CMC. Now, and Jacobs, for that matter, okay? Now, again, we got to see how these contracts are restructured. Like, are they going to get paid? Once they get paid, I got to make a decision because we understand that Jacobs and Barkley were in a contract year. And I think Ekeler is getting into a contract year this upcoming year. But we'll take a look at that. But Austin Ekeler, why isn't he in this list? And you can say, well, do we have a hate on for Austin Ekeler? No, I don't really hate him as a person. He is kind of weird. He blocked me, then unblocked me, then blocked me again. Just a weird guy. But I want to take a look at quickly with these stats with Austin Ekeler before I go into his top 5 and explain why he's not in here, okay? Now, his first 4 years, he accumulated a total of 9 touchdowns in 4 years. It took him 4 years to get 9 touchdowns, all right? Not only that, he has not eclipsed more than 206 rushing attempts in a season, right? This is very important. And in 6 years, he has not had one 1,000-yard rushing season, all right? He was a backup for Melvin Gordon for years. This is a guy for 4 years couldn't do what Derrick Henry does in a year or what Saquon Barkley does in a year, right? Now, the past 2 years he did well. A lot of check downs from Herbert, right? Getting the volume. We had Allen injured. We have Mike Williams banged up. It's not going to be the same type of year next year. It's really not. And I still believe that the Chargers do need a true full workhorse running back that they don't have right now in Ekeler. I'm not sold on him being a true workhorse running back. I'm still not sold on it. If you can't rush 1,000 yards in 6 years, you're not a running back. I don't even know what to tell you. But either way, he got it done this year. It's not going to happen. And a lot of people were like high on Taylor this year. I'm like, no, do not draft Taylor this year. He's not going to duplicate. Injuries happen. Things happen. Things go up, go down. And I told you guys to avoid Taylor this year, right? And sure enough, Taylor busted. But everyone told you to draft him first overall. I said, no, go Henry. He's due for a bounce back. And get Saquon, right? Round 2. So let's talk about this. So I want to give you guys some context here. I'm going to go with my number 5 here. We're going to work our way down to 1. Top 5 running backs, super early. And again, I'm just talking. We're having a discussion here. And why Christian McCaffrey isn't going to be my top 5 here, or even top 10. Well, top 10 maybe, but he had a good year with the 49ers. But this is a guy that played, I'm going to pull this up here. I think it was 9 games, guys. 9 games. Yeah, 10 games in 2 seasons. Now, he finished this season But the 2 years prior, he got banged up, and it was like really just non-contact injuries or something minor. The guy gets banged up quite often. So I'm not sold on him finishing yet another season. I'm not sold on it. Like, he had a good year this year. I think he's going to go down again with injury. Again, his history shows me I don't trust him, right? Dalvin Cook, I told you to avoid him, got hurt the last game. He cannot finish a season. And he had a mediocre season to begin with. Dalvin Cook did, right? So another reason why I'm leaving Christian McCaffrey. So at number 5 here, I got Dameon Pierce, right? And we got to see where the rookies land, right? We got Bijan Robinson. We got all these other rookies coming back at the running back position. But we got number 5 here. We got Dameon Pierce, okay? Dameon Pierce is my number 5. Now you say, well, Joe, Dameon Pierce finished 26th amongst running backs. But look what he did in those 13 games that he played, okay? 220 attempts. So he had more attempts than Austin Eckler. 4.3 yards per carry, 939 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 30 receptions to top that up, and a receiving touchdown for 165 yards. 939 yards, 13 games on a terrible offense. But I'm talking terrible offense. 4 rushing touchdowns, and he runs hard, he runs strong, he's young, he's dynamic, and he hasn't scratched the surface. So am I saying, if you're top 5, you're pretty much drafted in the first round, right? Or late first round for that matter. Am I saying, do you have to draft Dameon Pierce in the first round? Not necessarily. We're going to have to see where his ADP falls, but what I'm saying is you get him as value, and you got yourself a top 5 running back. That's the potential here. Again, 220 attempts, more volume than Austin Eckler was getting, and he only played 13 games. He was a rookie on a terrible offense. So obviously, Texans are going to improve. They can only go up from last year and how bad they played. They've got to improve the O-line. They got to get a quarterback. They got to figure stuff out. Maybe get a good wide receiver in free agency. But we're looking at Dameon Pierce here as a potential top 5 going into next year. He's going to be a ton of upside there, okay? Coming at number 4 here. Now, again, this guy is going to be lower on everybody's rankings because he had a bad year. The guy I'm talking about is Jonathan Taylor. I'm looking for a bounce back out of him, and I'm looking to try to grab him for value. Again, this was the number 1 pick across the board on all consensus rankings, and yet he still managed to get 191 attempts, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 861 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. Terrible offense, suspect quarterback, bad situation. Colts played bad coaching. They were terrible all around. He got hurt. He got banged up, which, again, I predicted that he'd get hurt. What goes up must come down. He only played 11 games. He finished 33rd amongst running backs, but look for a bounce back. I still think the talent is there. The volume will definitely be there. There's no one that's going to outperform Taylor, going to take volume away from a guy like Jonathan Taylor. He is the real deal. And if the Colts want to advance and get far in anything, they got to use Jonathan Taylor. Predicated he stays healthy. He's a top 5 running back. And again, I like the upside and a bounce back year for this year. Again, this is the super early list. So I'm not diving in here saying this is my final list. This is how it's going to be. No, I'm just laying it out and thinking light years ahead. Now, everybody last year had Kenneth Walker behind Rashad Penny. Now you're saying he's the rookie of the year for fantasy, or like the player of the year for fantasy, or the best rookie in fantasy, right? Like, you guys didn't believe in him. So why are you riding him now, right? So the point I'm trying to make is you got to see things before they happen, all right? Coming to number 3 now. My 3 and 2, I have some question marks. Number 3 is Derrick Henry. I love the volume still. 349 attempts, right? That's what I like. Number 1 attempts. This is huge for me. When I look at any running back, I'm looking at volume. Volume is king. So I look at him, 349 attempts, 1,538 yards. That literally put him second in rushing yards, just behind Josh Jacobs here. He got the touchdowns, 13 touchdowns, and he got everything else, fantasy points, all that fun stuff, right? The thing with him is, like, he's older now. What, he's like 29 or something like that. When is the end of the line for Henry? This is something that I got to take a look at in the offseason. I got to take a look at after the draft. I got to wait for some time to pass here. I got to get my intuition and feeling it all involved here and figure this out. But last year, my intuition was telling me bounce back year. It was clear to me, right? It was like clear. My crystal ball was like, yeah, Henry's going to bounce back, coming off injuries, come back hungry, volume, all that stuff. This year, I'm just torn on 2 things. Number 1, I think he's got 1 more good year left. Is this his final year? Maybe. Or is this the final? This last year was the final year. The one that just happened. So 2 things I'm thinking about. Is this his final year? Or like or does he have one more massive big time year coming up? I don't know. I really don't know. This is something I'm torn on. And again, Derrick Henry still is the volume king. I got him at 3 now. All right. Can he have one more astronomical year? Drop it in the comments. Let me know. To me, still early to tell. Again, we're predicating this pretty much on injury, right? Other than that, he's got to be a top 3 guy, as of right now. But is he over the hill? That's the question we got to answer. Probably not. I still think he's got one more good year. Let me know. Number 2 here, Saquon Barkley. Again, I got to see what happens with the contract. Does he get paid, incentivized? If he does, that's going to hinder this. Now, he played his heart out, knowing that he needs to get paid and incentivized. Finished top 4, or it's 4 in rushing, 13-12. In fantasy points, number 5, right? 300, what do you have? 284 fantasy points. That's playing his heart out with a decent team, right? Playoff contender with the Giants. So I got to ask myself, did he blow his load? And again, history shows us that this guy has a string of injuries, right? So did we see the last of Saquon Barkley's last hurrah so he gets paid? Or is he the real deal? Again, same thing with Josh Jacobs, due for a contract year. Prior to this year, Jacobs had 40 attempts. That's crazy. 1,653 yards, 12 touchdowns. So a guy like Jacobs, prior to this year, he was never this good. Has he broken out of the shell? Or is he going to go back to his old ways and just be a mediocre running back drafted in the 3rd round in fantasy? That's a big question. So I still got to put Saquon here at 2 based on opportunity, volume, and talent still. But again, similar to Henry, has he blown his load finally just to get paid? Going to be interesting. And number 1 here, I just think and again, I'm going to explain to you why he's number 1. So let's go. Dameon Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Saquon. And number 1 here is Kenneth Walker. Okay? Kenneth Walker. Remember, everyone told you Rashad Penny. I'm like, no, Kenneth Walker was drafted in the 2nd round. So very high draft capital on him. Played 15 games, but he didn't get going till week 6. Let me repeat this. Did not get going till week 6. 1,050 yards. So Eckler, who in 6 years has not eclipsed 1,000 yards rushing on the ground. 6 years. Cannot eclipse 1,000 yards. Walker did it in his first year. 228 attempts. So more attempts than Eckler, more volume than Eckler, more rushing yards than Eckler. He had 9 touchdowns, and he didn't get going till week 6. He's far superior in talent, ability, youth, and hunger. Eckler was a backup for 2 years. 9 touchdowns in 4 years of his first career, in his first 4 years of his career. It took 4 years for Eckler to get 9 touchdowns combined. Kenneth Walker did it in 1 season. So when I'm looking at young, talent, dynamic, upside running backs, I'm going to be fading Eckler, and I'm going to be getting Kenneth Walker. Yes, I will draft Kenneth Walker ahead of Austin Eckler this year. 100%. 100%. Unless anything changes from now until I release my 16-round draft solution. Where you're saying, well, Joe, that's bad advice. How could you? Eckler finished number 1 in fantasy points, and Walker did not. Where did Walker finish? Definitely not number 1, right? So let me just pull this up here. Where did Walker finish here? 18th, 202 points. How do you compare a guy who's 18th finisher to a guy who's number 1? How do you say that the Walker's ahead of him? Again, Walker did not get going till week 6. Tack on 6 weeks of way more volume. You're easily up. He's in the top 10 amongst running backs. Easily, had he been given that torch at the beginning of the year. So, again, Kenneth Walker, youth hunger, opportunity volume, and he's done, in 1 year with the touchdowns, what Eckler took 4 years to do in his early career. And Eckler is not young, dude. Like, he's just not. Walker's young and dynamic. 202.5 fantasy points. Kenneth Walker is my first overall pick as of right now, 22 years old. How old is Eckler, by the way? He's getting up there for sure. Let me pull this up here. Austin Eckler is currently 27. I mean, not the oldest, but I'll take a young 22-year-old for a running back on my fantasy team, especially if you're looking at Dynasty, right? So again, very early, right? I got Dameon Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Kenneth Walker. Super early top 5 running backs going into 2023. Drop it in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Does it sound crazy? What do you guys think? Drop it in the comments below, and I'd love to get your feedback. Again, nothing's crazy in fantasy when I'm talking about it, because again, I told you Taylor will not finish on top next year. Get Henry over Taylor. Joe, you're crazy. How could you put Derrick Henry ahead of Taylor? How could you think Saquon's going to finish ahead of Taylor? What happened? Right? It's very easy. How do you think? You're crazy. Why would you draft Kenneth Walker over Rashad Penny? How'd that turn out? Right? Dameon Pierce. Why would you stash a rookie like that? Tyler Algier. I talked about him in my 16-round draft solution. He was a waiver wire wonder. Right? Guys, you got to start thinking outside the box. That's what I do. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think of the top 5 here. And yeah, I'm still not sold on CMC finishing another season. He did this year. He's going to go down again. Cook, obviously don't trust him. Oh, Jacobs, about him real quick. You know, again, one good year out of his entire career where he was like, wow, is he going to wow us again? I'm not sold. I think he'll go back to his old ways. We'll have to see. That offense, new quarterback, different situation. A lot of question marks. So this is my top 5. I'm taking Jacobs, I'm taking McCaffrey, and I'm taking Eckler out of it. Let me know what you guys think. All right? Do you like Taylor a little bit better for a bounce back? Love to get your feedback. All right? Thumbs up, subscribe. I'm out. 2023 content is rolling out. Join the Patreon group right now. Patreon.com/FF Counselor. We'll talk soon. I'm out.